I'm back. Um, well, I got another commentary, and it's on something that's affected me personally, as in regard to things that I found very comfortable during my formative years that are literally being stripped away from me. And it's, everybody goes through this. I'm thirsty this morning. Everybody goes through this, and they go through this where things that they got accustomed to while they're growing up, all of a sudden, no longer there. COVID didn't help. I mean, sure as hell didn't help. But even prior to COVID, the idea of cafeterias was a dying tradition for decades. And I know people that they're considerably younger than myself that they look at the cafeterias when discussing it, and I'm not going to say they're put off by it, but they can't relate to it, and I guess I can understand that. I'm old enough that I can appreciate this, and so a little bit about myself. When I was growing up, um, I grew up mostly. I grew up in a tiny, small town in northeastern North Carolina. Um, Very poor, very just very economically underdeveloped, and very narrow. We don't like them kinds coming around this town. My family and I were kind of looked upon as outsiders when we moved there. We never really felt particularly warmed and welcome by most people in the community. This is not everybody, but it's just, I don't think that they knew how to take my family at the time. We're talking about an area that is pretty much, at that time, I would say it was pretty much half and half white and half black. Um, they didn't know how to take, they didn't know how to take my family. My dad being, from North Carolina, um, a white man from North Carolina. And although my mother is technically white, my mother's Hispanic, half Puerto Rican. And that kind of was, people looked at us like, what is this? I'm not trying to be Mr. Victim here and everything. I'm just telling you what it was like for me growing up. So, in a way, we were kind of victims of racism in a lot of ways. I mean, wasn't I mean, we weren't discriminated or anything, but people kind of looked upon us like, what the hell? We were kind of, in ways that doesn't exist today. Um, for my family, I mean, but it was a different time. And anyway, suffice to say that there was really nothing for us to do in the small town when we all had free time for ourselves. So we used to go and visit family in the Wake County, Johnson County area to visit my dad's family. And and the tradition was when doing so, we'll go somewhere to eat. We'll go to the Crackery Valley Mall, and we'll go to the Piccadilly, which was cafeteria at that time, or go to the generic cafeteria on the third floor of the Belks. Sometimes we went to the K&S, which is now the DNS. Sometimes we went to a place, we went to various cafeterias. Like the family, you would get together, and for some reason, we just love eating at cafeterias as a tradition. On the way back on the way back, we would drop by sometime in Wilson or in Rocky Mount and eat at a K&W. Um, Prior to my going to East Carolina during the 1980s, we would travel to Greenville. We went to a place called the SNS Cafeteria, which became the K&W around 88, 89. Um, Went to Morrison's in Hampton, Virginia. We went to various cafeterias. We just like going there. It was low cost. You pretty much get what you want. And it, but the thing about it is that there was a lot of World War II generation people, a lot of boomers in there. And that's pretty much what you see at cafeterias. So they're dying, and a lot of shopping malls with a very elitist attitudes started squeezing these entities out because what is it? A bunch of old granny and grandpas and grandmas going in there with their son and daughters or son and daughters in law, just to sit there and eat and go elsewhere. I can guarantee you they were shopping in the malls afterwards, after eating. But I'm gonna tell you something about corporatism. In spite of what people say about capitalism, a lot of businesses and a lot of corporations do not engage in the best economic decision making around. So because they're so stuck up and don't want the money of those kinds, and they wanted the really crass, yuppified, instant gratification culture. All of a sudden, overnight, a lot of these shopping malls pushed away the cafeterias and basically made these malls, in a very tacky way, very ostentatious, where it's meant for really for the super wealthy. And you would think in this day and age, with a declining middle class and that you could find something that's more folksy and down home and with the cafeterias. But the cafeterias are being driven out of just driven out from a lot of shopping centers and shopping malls. Um, as I said, prior to COVID, it was a bad situation. Because of COVID, um, just recently, several K&Ws closed. The one in Cameron Village in Raleigh, the one in Chapel Hill. I was informed that the one in Burlington, North Carolina, closed down. The one in Goldsboro closed down. Um, but I don't think they're all closing down. But I'm just very disappointed to see that, because that was a very that was a part of my growing up, that's been stripped away from me. I'm sentimentalist. My grandmother died 2 years ago. I remember when she was alive, visiting her every now and then. We would go to a K&W. I mean, I had these memories, and these are memories that I'm going to cherish and all that. But it's like, this is really taking this away. Um, but even more important than my little interest in my nostalgia, my personal nostalgia for cafeterias, is what about these workers that work there? They're laid off, and and what a terrible time for them to be laid off. They were laid off when the unemployment and the stimulus combined, where people being paid basically $600 or more each week. They don't have access to this, and this is terrible for these people who are getting laid off, and anybody else who are being continue to be laid off during this pandemic. Um, but it bolstered the argument for UBI, universal basic income. And the more I think about universal basic income, I think that universal basic income might be probably almost as important as the United States getting universal single payer healthcare system, a Medicare for all system, which we need. If we can't have Medicare for all, I would say, and I do insist that we have Medicare for all, but I would say that a substitute for not having Medicare for all would be universal basic income, because just the Andrew Yang, when he was running for president, he proposed the idea of $1,000 a month for every American. Some people calls it Social Security for all, but and think about it, a $1,000 a month payment to everybody, regardless of income. It would be an entitlement, not a means tested program, because with means tested programs, it means that some people are not going to get it when they need it. And I just have a problem with that. It punishes it. is too punitive against some people in the poor or lower middle class. That people will try to find a way and a loophole to deny them that. So it needs to be an entitlement, and it will give dignity to, and people who are already making minimum wage, they get the universal basic income. They can make ends meet even better. We don't have Medicare for all. um, it would help with some people's medical bills. I mean, it will help with groceries. It will help with with putting gas in your car. The basic expenses, rent, what have you. Um, eh, to me, universal basic income (UBI) is an idea whose time has come, and it may actually see fewer people on public assistance if we have a UBI. I just think it's a good idea that we have it, but we'll see what happens. I know that there is a growing movement for UBI. You can count me on board on that. I am strongly for UBI. I just think it's an idea whose time has come. Um, so that's my politicized message about these cafeteria closings. Anyway, you heard me yammer enough with this, so let me conclude by saying if you like or dislike what I have to say, you can press like or dislike. Either way, please comment. Um, as a free speech absolutist, it's my duty to say that if you got a platform, utilize it. We're all the muckrakers of our time. And as I said, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. Please share this information if you don't mind. And that's just going to reiterate here. Like or dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and until next time, Bernie Sanders for president in the year 2024. And no, I wasn't kidding when I said that. Peace.